Moving right along, jumping into business. Everybody should have received the minutes this morning.
Printed copies are coming around also.
Okay, I printed them.
Yeah.
So nice of you.
I know.
Start the
Okay.
year.
This morning.
Now, next month,
You know,
right?
Somebody took it out.
I'm sure the resolution will go past
But I left
28 or
the meeting.
35 days.
I put in there, pay that meeting, whatever time, that was not in this section.
Okay.
Just a minor detail.
Thank you.
For consistent purposes, I got it all.
I don't need one.
I have one.
Commissioner Perry just pointed out he made a small change from what was sent out this morning. Commissioner Perry, what was the,
It was a very minor change, and somehow in my editing, it took like the morning, didn't get there. But on page 3 of the minutes, right before the financial report, I added the clause that I left the meeting at 2:32 PM. Generally, when we've had somebody, that's in this copy, it's not in what was emailed.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Because I generally try to keep that in the minutes when somebody, and that's different from what was emailed out.
okay, thank you. Pete?
I move that the minutes be accepted as presented.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. Commissioner Malavecchia.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Before we go where we are on the agenda,
Oh, sorry, yeah.
could we deal with one other backup, since we don't get to write the agenda? Just to follow up from our December meeting, and I know people are getting tired of this, but there's two new issues that I think we need to consider. As is noted in here, and this is what, writing this is what made me go back and look at it. During the December meeting and several times during the September meeting, when City Attorney Martin was here, she kept on telling us that the orders control what happens, that the council speaks with its minutes. Besides the issue that we've been discussing on the mayor's appointment and the confirmation of it, we have another problem and I think the minutes, the city's orders are just wrong because of the way they do things and have done things. And as Ms. Martin said, they were wrong and they need to be fixed, but they have been fixed. When, in August of 22, when Mr. Malavecchia was appointed, the order states that his term ends August 18th of 2022. And so since August 18th of 2022, plus you can get the 90-day holdover, you haven't been a legal member of this commission because the order, quite frankly, in my opinion, wasn't done right. And Mr. Wright, I'm going to say the same problem with you.
We went back and we amended those orders in
When-
the city council, so you don't have
When
the
was it-
amended orders.
when was that done?
I can't tell you
Well,
the
wait.
exact date, but I know it was done.
Ms. Martin told us last meeting, that's great, if they were, we'd like to get them. Last meeting, she told us that this was the latest orders and nothing's been done since then.
Well, if she said that, that's.
Well, I'm just going by what we're told.
Did you say,
It might have been amended.
what
to me.
month was that?
All right.
The one you're looking at, so
All
it
right,
was-
let me,
2022.
in March 1, 2022, that order from March 1 meeting, you were appointed, and it said that your term ended August 18th, 2022. Mr. Wright was appointed, and it said his term ended June 30th of 2023. And Mayor Yarber was appointed, and his term ended something in 2026.
Yarborough or
Lumumba, did I say y'all? My apologies. That Mr. Lumumba was reappointed, because his was a reappointment, and it was 26. And she told us back in September that all those were wrong and need to be corrected, which we agree. Now, she told us in December, and Dr. Amari, you may be very well right. I'm just going by what she told us in the meeting. I hope you are right, because it would solve the problem if they corrected them to a proper time that fits with what the statute says, that is there. If they are, and Ms. Martin was wrong, like she was on 2 or 3 other things she told us, which I want to talk about for a second. Just, we need a copy of the new orders, if we could figure out when and where they were, because that's what needs to be happening to clear it up. To talk to 2 other things she said, she stated about this, if there's a vacancy and then there's a period of time that they're not filled, and it starts back, that the new appointment starts right there, because she quoted a copy of the statute. I showed it to you a minute ago what I do with the statute. And she quoted the statute that justified that in her mind, where it says, the terms of all appointments made subsequent to the initial appointment should be made for 5 years. Y'all remember she told us that a dozen times. She didn't read the second sentence of that very same clause. Any vacancy which may occur shall be filled in the same amount as the original appointment and shall be made for the unexpired term. Which means you don't have this holdover period. You have, if there's a term and somebody leaves, it's vacant for a little while, but you don't start a new term for 5 years at that point. It's finishing whatever position that you'd filled up. And the statute is very specific and says that. I tried to say that to her. We didn't have a copy of the statute last meeting, but it is, for anybody that's interested, the statute is 2765-241, and that is in section 7C. And it reads, the vacancy shall be made, the appointment should be made for the unexpired term. It doesn't start a whole new appointment there. So hopefully when they corrected y'all, assuming they have corrected them, they did it in accordance with that. Now what we do have is where we have kept a track of where there was an appointment, Keisha Powell, Tony Yarber, Gil Lowry, and who filled it, who filled it, who filled it. And what we've kept on a graph has done it that way, that the appointment was
There also is a request for an AG's opinion. I don't know if there's a
That's not
status on.
minutes, and that's what we said. That's what
Has
the
it
attorney
been
wanted.
done?
Correct, that's the question, yeah. Is that, I'm assuming that's in process, or?
I believe it's in process. That's what Attorney Martin agreed to do. And
That's
the
what
mayor's
the
office.
mayor
Right,
agreed
right.
before she spoke and said, we're gonna, I hope it's more than just in process. It's been going on since September. I hope a month is plenty of time to write an AG's opinion request. So can we find out if it's been
That
done?
would be my only other question.
What?
That would be my only other question.
Yeah, has it
Where is
been,
it?
but my question is, has it been done? And if so, can we get a copy of what was requested?
We will find out.
Thank you. Now then,
All right, on to the financials.
that's all I have.
Yeah,
Thank you, Commissioner Perry.
Mr. Lee, can you put the slides back on?
Hang on a second, let me get the, share my screen going here. All right. There we go.
Okay. So the financials are through end of December, were as follows.
Can I ask one question real
Yes.
quick? Is Wilson Hood on or just Michael Bonner?
There's somebody on a phone. For the minutes, I saw Michael Berner. Who's on the phone line?
Wilson Hood here in the bud.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, all
All
right.
right, thank you.
Net obligations run it off to $137 million. We did add the obligations that were adopted in the last meeting for about 440,000.
440 plus 10, 440 plus 11.
So the 11, I was trying to look, and I had not received the minutes when I put this together, but what I was looking at was there was excess from,
There was $100,000.
There's $100,000, but because you keep it separate by projects.
Right.
The $100,000 be a credit, we just got that left over there that comes back and we can de-obligate it. The 11,000 is for the separate project. Yes, Robert always tries to justify, I can spend extra money here because I saved some here.
Right.
But from an accounting side, we try to keep them separate, but there was a motion to obligate an additional $11,000 for McRaven.
yeah, and that's one thing I didn't see, whether that was an additional or
Just an
whether it
additional.
was requested from the 100,000.
Just an additional
Right.
11,000.
So we'll add an additional 11,000 to the net obligations for Fund 173,
That's the amount of money.
right? And revenues plus interest, about 146 million. We had about $1.4 million that came in for the month of December. Expenses are roughly $116 million. Encumbrances at $5.5 million. Next,
What's it,
sorry.
this cutoff at the bottom, the bond payment, I was just curious what that
Right.
is monthly.
So what I did is I accounted for the bond payment that's due for this fiscal year, and typically that's not made until September 1. And so that is added into the net obligations each year. So about
$4 million.
$4.1 million, right? So that's included in the net obligations.
Yeah,
So
the
when we start out
100%.
the fiscal year, I try to add that number into the obligations so we know that that payment would be made from that fund. Okay. All right. Fund 157, our net obligations remain the same at 35.2. Revenues plus interest, 39.2. We had an accrued interest of about 12,000 and change that was recorded on the books. That was added into that number. And expenses were at 25.9, encumbrances at $2.7 million. Commissioner Perry?
Minor detail here that I wish you'd check for me. In your report last month, the net obligations and the revenues if you look on the minutes on page 3, they both are $254,387. I just don't believe ironically that happened.
Sorry, which one?
All right, look on Fund 157,
Yes.
35,254,387, 39,254,387. I believe there's a typo in there somewhere. I just think I think it would be ironic that they would both be the same number.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
387, 250.
There's a-
Oh, for the previous,
Yeah,
yeah,
last month's report.
okay.
And so if you check last month's
I'll
report
double check, yeah.
and give the correct number, if you send it to me, I'll put it
Update
in
the
final
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, in fact, I'll check now before.
I just don't believe it could be the same.
No,
number.
it was not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not the same.
I'm not being picky, it's just when I type it.
Right, yeah. Oh, sorry, that does conclude the financial report. I'm trying to double check the numbers Commissioner Perry just referenced to. Yeah.
Do we have any further discussion regarding the financials? No, with that, I'll accept the motion to accept the financial report.
So,
Nathan, get that one?
Right, there we go.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next up, Robert Lee.
I made a little bit of a format change to our projects. I moved all the action items up front. I do want to apologize for the tardiness. I thought I hit the send button while I was on the recliner Friday night with my foot recovering from Christmas, and apparently I did not hit the send button, and it sat in draft all weekend, so I do apologize for lateness on that. Back. I want to start off with McRaven Road Bridge. When we met last time, I had mentioned that we had a delay claim from Fordyce Construction on delays caused by Entergy not relocating or moving their power lines in a timely manner. Our legal counsel reviewed it, all the relevant statutes, and found that based on state law, contract specifications, delay claim, which was $27,625. Now, brought this slide back from last month showing the balance that I love, Pete. I am reluctantly asking the commission to allocate $27,625 to the McRaven Road Bridge project for the delay claim. And I say reluctantly because I really don't like to do this.
Does that,
Not pleased with it, but based on law and statute,
the 11,000 we did y'all did last month was for the delay claim.
no.
That's what it says.
No, 11,000 was for overrun on quantities.
It's said in the minutes that it was
It said the minutes
due to the
came from.
contractor having to wait.
Yeah, that was what was said in the meeting. And so, because, and Robert, the reason I'm saying that is because you and I discussed this a couple of days ago, and I was right in the meeting since then. And when I read it, it was like, this is not,
I wrote final change order, increase of 10,000, and that was for overruns on the project.
I understand, but in the discussion that was held about it, the delay claim was what was a major part of what was said. It didn't say it was the only thing to it. I'm just Maybe it wasn't, I'm just saying that was what was said in the meeting. So the 11,000 that was done is in addition to the $27,000 you have there.
Correct. 11,000 from last month was, it had a number of quantities ran over, beyond just the piles that we discussed a few months back. Your rip wrap, a little bit of asphalt, et cetera. The delay claim is $27,625, and if I got my words crossed up last month,
Well,
I
just-
apologize for that.
So our $21,000 project is now gonna be a $50,000 project.
Oh, counting this 1% money only.
Yeah, we started off with a
Yeah.
$21,000 project, and because of either overruns, piles, or delays now,
Yes. You know, after this, regardless of what happens here today,
oh wait, it's now 70,000. 27, it's now 70,000. We added 50 to the 21. 12 plus 11 plus 27.
yeah. So, one of the things, you know, in talking with all of our consultants is we're going back to all these bridge projects and going back to Entergy and saying, hey, we need to take another look at this because I do not want to run in this issue with Entergy again. We're gonna have a separate discussion with Entergy on how this happened and how the taxpayer had to eat this because of Entergy's delays.
Okay, Mr. Wright,
Me and him have had a discussion about
It-
this.
Has Entergy started the work then, or have they moved?
they haven't moved.
Entergy just said they couldn't do it.
They didn't move them at
That's the
all.
They
problem.
didn't, okay.
Bridge is done, work's done.
They-
What
they did their
Entergy
work
said
right.
was, yes, we'll move the power lines out of the way, then said, give us a week, and then finally said, no, we can't do it. And that left us in a pickle.
To explain my understanding, they cut the power off while the crane was set up in that area to drive it, and they cut it back on, and then so they didn't move the lines, they just cut
They
it off.
cut it off, they planned an outage, but that was after they had said, give us a week or give us a couple weeks,
My-
and
my
then
que-
said they couldn't do it.
My question is, if we got a consultant that's sitting here managing this project, and and I know this is true, and I agree with him that he did it, who's on the site all the time, because he's told us before that. Why do we have cranes sitting there for 2 weeks waiting for energy before why don't we know that when energy's gonna move it or whatever before we let the contractor bring the crane out?
Elmore's here, and Elmore, if you wanna come up, I got the,
I mean, somebody, and I don't know whether it's the contractor, I don't know whether it's up, I don't know who it is, but, you know, what we're paying for is the contractor bringing the crane out there and it's sitting in place for weeks, I don't know how long, waiting on energy. Why don't we wait until energy's gonna do it before why don't we have a coordination that says energy's gonna do this on Monday, crane's gonna come on Monday, or whatever.
We had several conversations with Energy and the contractor. They were moving from one job to another, they decided to go ahead and move out, because really they told us they were gonna come a little bit later.
Who's,
Fordyce did.
okay,
Okay, they finished up a project, and they came out there to get started, and they could get some work done, and they did that. And based on that, they wanted to work with Energy to try and come in and do what they had to do. I know it was on a couple, I don't remember the exact detail to the T, but the Energy said, well, when you're ready to do something, give us a call. And we need 48 hours to get here. Well, they don't want to wait 48 hours, they want to get out and get started. So some of it is honestly on the contractor.
can I ask you to speak up, because this doesn't pick that up?
And some of it is actually on the contractor, because Energy said, will you come out and shut the power down for you to work? Okay, and so Fordyce, they said I needed a notification, I think it was like 48 hours notification that they needed to do that. But Fordyce wanted to work, so they came out there and started working. And they start screaming, where's energy, where's energy? Okay, so that's why,
So Fordyce started early,
they did start early based on.
and
the
because they
rules
started early, Energy didn't have it moved, but now they wanna say that the delay is, ought to be paid for, because if Fordyce had started on time, would this have been a problem?
Honestly, I don't know, because Energy kept saying they were gonna come and get stuff done. I really don't know.
I would think it would still be a problem because Energy eventually just didn't come. They had to work around it, right?
They came out and shut the power down on a couple of occasions, but again, after it happened the first time, if I remember correctly, they told Fordyce, told us, when you wanna come back and do whatever to drive the powers, whatever, give us at least a 48 hours notification so we can come.
The issue was they didn't come the first time and do what they promised to do. They only promised to come out and cut the power the second time after they cut the power the first time.
Right.
At that point, moving the power lines was irrelevant because they hadn't done it.
I understand. My question goes to the very beginning of the project, when we're getting ready to get, one of the things that has to be done with the project is know what's gonna go on with Energy power lines. Is the problem that Energy just basically lied and said we're gonna do it, and we didn't do it? Or, I mean, was, this delay, as I understand it, was for a crane?
For driving the power, they don't want to
Yeah.
get too close to the.
Yeah, it's and so it's the cost of that crane sitting there.
If I'm not mistaken, it was cost of the crane plus his crew, yes.
Plus what?
Plus his crew.
Well, the crew didn't sit out there for 3 weeks while they weren't.
They may go with the crane is what he's claiming.
Well, no, lots of-
I agree with you, but that's probably what they're.
I mean, they might be charged for it, but, you know,
Their specialty assigned for the crane, they wouldn't be like,
Yeah.
do another type, like the crane crew comes in, does their thing, off they go, and the next part of your
Who-
bridge crew comes
Whose
in.
responsibility is it to get Energy out there?
Well, we, from the beginning, before we even got the project bid it out, we had the conversation with Energy.
Sure.
And so we had that conversation several times, but because of everything everybody keeps saying, supply chain issue, and so I guess that was a big part of it based on their conversation with us.
But all they ended up doing was just cut the power off. There wasn't a supply issue. It was just
Right, they come-
getting someone out there.
Right, that's correct.
and so we paid a crane and people to sit around for, we're saying 3 weeks.
What's the exact, I don't have it in front of me, but
I don't know
I
off
don't
the top
remember
of
the
my head.
exact time, sir. I mean, we got the documentation, but I don't have it in front of me.
I don't have it at all, much less in front of me. You know, it,
Robert, everything else has been paid, including the 11,000 or just shy of 11,000 from last month.
Change order's been approved by city council. What we want to do is just to have one final change order covering, no, let me back up. The pile change order been approved by city council. The additional 11,000, we have not taken to city council for, what we're gonna do is, depending on what happens today, if this body approves it, we just have one summary change order last month plus this month's discussion, take it to council all at once.
And you're saying legally, you don't see a way, other than trying to negotiate with Fordyce to get that to come down, you don't see a way that we don't owe it as, the city doesn't owe it?
That's what my lawyer tells me.
So the match portion is not responsible, who's the ERBR?
That's the state fund we applied for,
Emergency bridge.
the ERBR
They
emergency.
don't have any liability for cost overruns?
they give that much money no matter what it
That's it.
costs.
You never
That's
go
what you
down
apply
there.
for. That's it.
They gave you, if it had been built for $180,000, the state would have paid 100% of it.
Yeah.
What was the $10,000 for then if it wasn't for the delay?
It's just overrun.
We had,
Last month was quantity overruns.
it was some striping, some additional riprap because of the excavation under the bridge. Striping, riprap, a little extra paving, and I think that was the base of those items.
Was there like an estimation error, or was it something actually added to the project?
When they were excavating, there was a concern about some of the, material up under the bridge.
And when they decided they needed to add more to it.
Yes, sir.
Why would striping be added? I mean, look at that picture, there wasn't that much striping to begin with anyway.
Can you go back to that picture?
I mean,
The, I think we had about, I don't have, I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but we extended the asphalt out just a little bit further on this end,
Sure.
for make it.
okay, so
smoother.
you extend the asphalt, so you extend the striping.
Right. Yeah, I see it.
Just have a better tie-in.
Yes, better time.
It looks good.
It does look really good.
Looks good, I drove across it, it's, cause I got in an argument with two county people and they said it was closed and I said, no, it's open, cause we've been here in the meeting and seen the picture of it, so. We drove across and I showed them that it was open.
Took pictures, took a video.
But the bottom line is, legal has said you don't have any recourse, so you're asking for the 27th.
Yes, sir.
All right.
38 total.
No, we've already approved.
Right.
Yeah, so you're
38
asking for
was gonna go to
27th.
Yeah.
50 total.
50 total.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the rationale again, Robert, for legal saying that we have no recourse?
I would have to defer to Terry, but based on his understanding of how the state law works as far as responsibilities on delays due to things outside the contractor's control. But I would probably defer to Terry as far as the legalese on that.
Is this the same kind of clause as what we had at Riverside for the price overruns?
We didn't have a utility delay on.
Yeah, but I mean, but it was the clause that said delays not due to the contract, it was, the delay was created by the city, and so we paid that extra.
The extra was for increase in your cost
I
of.
understand, but the clause that allowed that,
Outside the control of the contractor.
Yeah.
the clause that allowed it in their contract was that, I'm just saying this, sounds like the same clause.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, you can't hold them accountable. First, if we gotta.
Can't hold them accountable unless the reason was because they wanted to start early. And we weren't prepared. I mean, no, I don't think it's for, my question is why didn't they move the crane and move it somewhere else rather than have it sit there for 3 weeks? But that's,
Wrong way behind us at this point. Yeah.
Is there any more room for negotiations?
Our lawyer's been talking to their lawyer.
has anybody talked to Energy?
That's on the plan some point later this month, although with the weather coming in, it might be not next week.
Talking to Energy in the sense of trying to avoid this happening in the future, it's not,
So,
not to get them to
They're not gonna
come.
participate.
no, at this
They're not gonna pay
point,
for
this
it,
is, no,
right?
at this point, you
We know that
know,
for a fact.
I think at this point, you know, this is what it is.
Yeah. I move
Discussion?
we cover the $27,625.
You want to round it off to 20?
Well, hold on a second. We rounded the last one off.
No need to round this, Robert?
Well,
The dollar amount is a dollar amount.
this is gonna be final numbers right here.
This is it.
All right, so you got 10, 469, 15, and 27, 625. And every bit, it takes every bit of that 21,526.
Yeah, these are gonna be actual final numbers.
Yeah, but the 21,526 plus the 12,260 plus the 27,625 plus the 10,469 is what it's actually gonna cost.
This is it, yeah.
So, if you-
These are hard numbers.
But I thought we'd already covered everything else.
yeah, we have, that's what,
He's doing the math to find out what the final dollar amount is, counting all the extra obligation to round off.
that's 38,000 minus 11,000, which is 27,094.15 is the additional. You got 11,000. Can I suggest this? Can we have a motion to rescind the 11,000 approval we made last month? Get it out of the way, then have one final motion for that 38,000.
But I thought the council had already took action on that.
No, not last month.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
gonna put it all
12,260.
The
together.
11,000, we approved $11,000. We took that 10,469 and rounded it up to 11.
You make the motion, I
Yeah,
second.
that's right.
I rescind my motion.
First motion I would like to make is that we rescind the motion approving $11,000, obligating $11,000 extra money
Second.
that we did,
Oh.
in the December meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, second motion?
I'll give the number, I don't want to make the motion.
Give me the number.
Make it $38,100.
Somebody needs to make a motion to obligate how much
$38,100.
toward the McRaven Road project?
Okay. I move that we obligate $38,100 toward the McRaven Road
And
Bridge.
additional.
Additional dollars toward the McRaven Road Bridge project.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Pete?
I got 3 ayes and 1 opposed, I didn't hear enough ayes.
I had some hands raised.
But-
I'll go off.
All right, give me a count.
Go ahead, that's fine. You'll do it again? Jeff, call it.
Okay. All in favor of Jonathan Lee's motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Commissioner Perry opposed?
The burner and hood.
Michael? Yeah,
Michael?
Wilson, Michael?
Say that again?
You for or against?
Aye.
All right.
Hood.
Mr. Hood? Okay.
I'm gonna say the hood.
Abstain?
I think you just
Not
got
voting.
loose, yeah.
I appreciate that.
Motion carries, all right.
Next action item is not an action item. Wagner sharpened their pencils on their proposed contract amendment. That was for $850,000. That is now, they got it down to $276,500. Okay, how did that happen? They went and looked at unspent funds in their existing contract, and reallocated them towards the extra C&I work that went in that 850. There's no action that needs to be taken today by the commission because it was previously allocated to 850, which now we're not using the whole 850, thankfully. But I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on Wagner reviewing their amendment. We didn't take it to council back in November or so because we had a lot more questions even after the sales tax commission voted, and they went back and sharpened their pencils on it.
Is it also partly possible because they were anticipating had to be inspecting through January, and it didn't take as long to get to where we are right now? Because that was based on a certain number of days, if I remember right.
It was based on, they were basing it on January. It wouldn't have been enough to knock it down by that much money. And, you know, we
Oh, not by
did,
that much, I'm just saying, was that a part of it?
no, not really.
Seemed like it
Only
should.
thing that probably would have been cut out was, you know, we didn't do the water line connection there at Myrtle
And
Street,
that's-
but it would have knocked that much off of it.
All right, that's my next, well, they did spend an extra month doing it, which was, we were paying for 7 extra months, it seemed like, but that's beside the point. Who's gonna do the inspection for when they finally clean up the rest of the project?
That will be on Jackson Water.
Well, how do we know?
That's the final part of it.
That's the
So-
final part of it.
Are we getting a credit back for the work they're not having to do because Jackson?
Yeah,
Water
there will
can do
be,
the
there
work?
will be a decrease change order at the end
Oh,
for
yeah,
work undone. We'll have to pay for the materials already ordered, which they're gonna go in the ground eventually anyway.
Right.
But as far as your actual labor going into excavation and whatnot, we'll get a credit for that and the asphalt. We did do a little bit of asphalt to get the bike trail connected there, to make those temporary connections. And then the final asphalt and paint on the intersection where we left the surface out.
My question though is, not so much on the connection, because I figure Jackson Water can do the connection and know what they're doing. But is there any need for any CNI for the rest? I mean, don't they have to still excavate and fix that paving and all that on that last?
That'll be part of the Jackson Water, like all of
I
it.
understand that. I'm asking whether somebody needs to be inspecting it or not.
Jackson Water will,
It'll be soup to nuts for them.
yeah.
I mean, what?
Soup to nuts.
From the beginning, yeah.
Beginning to end.
So we're trusting they're gonna do what they
So
say.
we want to trust them that they're gonna do it to meet the rest of the standards.
Yes.
Do you not trust that, Pete?
Do we, I mean, do we have a?
I don't know.
Will you put it in an email?
I was asking the
Send it to us
question.
in writing.
I was asking the question.
That's fair question.
Yeah.
I will confirm that with Ted when we have our, the other Ted, when we have our Tuesday meeting next week.
That'd be great, to report back on that.
Yeah.
But that was more of an FYI, but
That's great.
And let me, Robert, that might get us where we're not over budget on our bond funds. Because we really had spent more than we had available. We'd obligated more than we had available, knowing that these were coming out then. That $500,000 might get us back where we're within
Yeah.
the limits,
yeah.
just as
All right, next request for action item or consideration is on the Old Canton Road slide. Contractor for this went back and took another look at the guardrail situation on the Old Canton Road slide. They contacted a number of subcontractors to see what they would consider on this. The one sub, which is Bulldog Construction, I believe, off the top of my head, was to come in and put a concrete rail, and I'm gonna point, is an issue.
I would ask them to look at it again.
I mean, I think you ought to be able to.
I agree with that.
It might take bigger than that 1.5 inch galvanized pipe to span that kind of distance, I don't know, but you could get something that could span.
Wow, I don't know what that
So,
means.
and notice on here, I put just request for consideration.
Yeah, of course,
Please,
yeah.
Right, yeah.
because I wanted to have this discussion
Thank you for bringing it.
with the commission.
I think we ought, I'm with Nathan, we ought to ask them to go back and,
Come up with different.
And Mr. Lee, I mean, I'm not trying to patronize you, but I'm a little surprised that the scope does not cover that. I mean, have we validated that that was not in the proposal?
The issue here, I think, is this wall ended up where they designed, though the wall ended up too close to the edge of the road.
But that sounds like I'm like, Pete, that sounds like,
Yeah.
if the scope said that they were gonna put a rail, that's their problem.
the issue here
Yeah.
is, and I'll speak to my engineer friends here in the room, the contractor designed it.
Yeah.
And
We
he was
had-
designing, solving the problem of the slide.
Right.
Yeah.
He said, we're gonna fix the slide, but he didn't look at the whole problem of what happens when you fix the slide, you ain't cover the road.
I'll put it to
I'm
you
paying
this.
homage to the people that I condemn all the time, so.
So I'll put this away. With this contractor, we had some deep discussions on this project. Now, South Brown, I think we're all pleased with.
Yeah, that's good.
But, you know, even on this, going 1 out of 2, if further out, yeah.
But he designed it.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
why we've been having some,
He built it to solve the problem.
Have we paid him?
no,
Yeah, you go back to.
not yet.
Oh, that's a stupid question, the city.
Save that judge for another day. All right, let me make a quick note here.
So could we give him the opportunity to fix it?
To fix it. Mm-hmm.
Where I'm gonna go back to the contractor after this and we'll have a discussion.
That is also Bulldog
And
Construction?
no.
No, the contractor on
That's the
this was
price on Bulldog.
geostabilization. They contacted Bulldog for this proposed fix.
Yeah,
Who, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say who. did?
Geostabilization,
That's the name of the
the
company.
companies that did it, that and Silas, right? Did both of them?
yeah, they did both. And they are a geotechnical,
Yeah.
that's their specialty.
Then Nationwide Fire, there's an office here, but
I think they're trucking West Virginia once.
they, what?
I think they're trucking West Virginia once.
That's the problem.
They need block walls more than we do. This one we brought up last month, and then we all looked at our historian and decided we needed to bring it back up this month because Pete wasn't here.
Okay.
So Pete,
What we agreed to do was fund half of the match, half the required match, up to $300,000. We thought it was gonna be I had $250, but no, we have not obligated the funds for it.
so we just agreed in principle, but not
Like
obligated.
we've done on other MPO projects.
Okay.
Just like we've done on these
Others, yeah, okay.
South State Street and all these others. yeah.
That's what I needed to hear, because
We need to pass something to obligate the funds.
We need to increase it to 300 to allow it to.
we just obligated,
No,
period. We've
it's
obligated
not
nothing.
even, that's the total amount, we haven't done anything.
Okay. I got you, okay.
We just need to obligate $300,000, and then whatever. you
That
do.
was the deal.
The deal was up to $300,000, but it would be one half of the required match up to $300,000.
And it is $300,000.
I've not gotten word
So
of
we
what
need to make it up to 300.
Yeah, because it might be change orders and whatever, I mean,
but our total, regardless of whether it goes up, is
Yeah.
300.
The original-
Our minimum is 230.
the original estimated amount was $230, but that was a year and a half ago, and the price has gone up and whatever, so I don't know what the bids are. But originally it was gonna be $230, but we agreed up to
I'll make it.
300.
Whenever you're ready. I'll make a motion to approve using 1% funds to cover the match for the East County Line Road project up to $300,000. Half the match up to $300,000.
Second.
Second by Fidelis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
That's it on the action items, and I appreciate that, and going forward, I'll try to put the action items up front,
That's great.
so we can knock that out. Next up is the neighborhood resurfacing program. On phase 1A, actually, they moved along a lot further than I had on my spreadsheet. They're over near Cade Chapel and Verdant Addition, milling overlay, and off Bailey Avenue. They paved Ridgeway Street on the Cade Chapel side. They were doing milling work on the east side over towards, on the Verdant side. So they're working pretty well in there, and they're looking at moving on the next set of streets, and we met to look at some sewer holes that are gonna get repaired next week over in Fondren. And then we need to kind of keep in mind that some of the streets that we are milling and overlaying, we do have sidewalks that are completely out of ADA compliance, and that we will have to look at a complementary sidewalk program for those streets we repave. I'm not saying go to some other street and do a sidewalk here or there, but where we pave and the sidewalks don't meet ADA, we need to come back. The benefit of that is you'll get a contractor that's probably more in tune to just concrete work bidding on it instead of having them be a sub.
Took out 9 streets that you said had water or sewer problems and said that Jackson Water was gonna repave them end to end, curb to curb, and he took some out of here. Jackson Water's not doing that.
That's correct.
The Jackson Water, that came from where, way back a long time ago, the mayor said that about where they're gonna replace 2 and 4 inch lines using the core money. But the streets we took out,
They're not touching them?
well, they doing patching work in there. For example, on St. Anne, they put in, while we were meeting the last time, 2 months ago, they put in a 200-something foot long repair, and they patched that 200 feet, but they're not repaving that whole street.
Yeah. What they do is they put crushed stone, limestone, after they fix it, and then they'll do some resurfacing. But then we have to go back and
Yeah,
do
but,
the-
but what was said in the last meeting, it said 3 or 4 months ago in the last meeting, was we took those streets out and Jackson Water's gonna repave them end to end. That's not happening, folks. I'm not.
That's correct.
We need to know that we got streets
You're right.
that we've taken out of these
A, B, and C.
That's good. That's
Nathan,
good to
you,
know.
you asked the question, did this include all the streets?
I guess the good, I hate to hear that.
I'm
that's
just
not-
trying to
that's
say we
not-
need to know that.
But we need to go, obviously, we don't want to touch it until they're finished with the patching, and then we need to come back and
Well,
reconsider.
if they have repair work to be done, we need to work around that.
Yeah.
When we did contract A, I
Yeah.
think we said we were gonna segregate those streets to see if Jackson Water did it. And so those 9 that we took out of there, and however many we took out of this, we need to find out where Jackson Water is, for example. If all they were gonna do on St. and the only reason I say St. Anne's, because I cross this street and I see it every time I drive, you know, just to my right, there's a section where and it was going on when we had the meeting.
Yeah.
And they patched that. If that was all they're gonna do on St. Anne, by way of change order, it seems to me it would be appropriate to go put that street back in now, if they have finished the work that they're gonna do.
All right, so that is our intention. At first, it was our understanding they were gonna do the whole street.
Yes, sir.
But when we talked to them, they said, no, unless we replace the whole line on the street, and there are some of those 2-inch lines in South Jackson that they're gonna have to, they said that they would do, but they're not on this list.
Yeah, we don't have any,
None of
when
those.
we
on this
compared your list of 2-inch lines to ours, there
That's
weren't
right.
any, we don't have any of
It's
those.
not in there. So clearly the understanding, and we've already done this in some streets where they go in and they repair it. When we see a water line break, we get them to repair it, and then we go back and resurface and fix it.
And one of the streets that we had a meeting on with Chad and Mike Brown yesterday, we went over to Council Circle on the north end there by Red Wing. There's a nice barrel with a photo on it, and yeah, and we called that was
Whose
yeah
photo?
you know, and the sewer side.
No, I didn't, but I do now.
Yeah, on the sewer consultant working under Ted and said, hey, is this one at so-and-so Concord Council Circle? Is this up on your sewer repair area? And she said, yes, that one and 2 others down around the circle further down. I said, okay, great. Do you have a time frame on this? About next week or so, weather permitting, of course. And Chad and Mike said, well, we're probably not going to be over here for another 3-4 weeks based on progress, schedule, and weather. I'm like, well, that's perfect timing. So, like, okay, well, when you come in and do the sewer, you don't have to bring the patching contractor in to patch it. Just rock it, keep it up. When we come in, we'll do the mill and the pavement, and then we'll put the pavement on top. So, you know, as far as that shift in how Jackson Water's doing their water repairs and then known sewer issues, that's where, you know, having Jackson Water sewer on speed dial, we're able to triage that, flex, and pivot on this midway.
Which is ideal. What I'd like to ask is, on all the streets that have been removed, I don't know how many it was on B and C. If I remember right, it was 9 on A. Do we have identified what the issues were on them so that that list of issues can be handed to Jackson Water to see where now, granted, on like B and C, if they're gonna get to it before June, it's fine. But if we could give them the ones where we're gonna go, it seemed like it would be to do exactly that. But we did that because y'all found a barrel out there. What I'm saying can be a little bit more proactive by saying, here's the list that we've identified, why we pull those off to them.
Well, some of those are on the last page of what I handed out.
I can't get to the last page.
I'm sorry, I should have mentioned. But I hope so.
1C?
No, it's after 1C. There should be one page in there. In the one, in there, the list of the ones that were taken.
On A, B, C.
Okay, I ain't got one.
All right, it should have.
Well, now, yeah.
Anyway, those streets are on there, but yeah, we'll have that. Some of them that were on there had been already resurfaced, and some of them, for the same reason you pointed out, would be put back
Yeah,
on.
if they've already been resurfaced, they need to come out, but,
Yeah, maybe the county did it.
yeah,
or-
but if, I'm just talking about the ones we took out. First off, we're doing Manship and Whitworth.
Manship wasn't on the list, was it?
It was, they took it off.
Yeah, you see, I was,
But,
Yeah.
but,
Quinn is on there, you're right around the corner.
but, to answer your question, if they were doing Manship, which, I'm just being hypothetical.
Right.
If they're doing Manship, they're supposed to be going down Whitworth 50 feet anyway.
Feet at the intersection.
At
okay, so that's what I was asking.
At
So,
every,
we're not-
at every
yeah.
intersection, we're going
Right.
in.
What they're not
Any- any
doing is
crosswalk.
they're not just like cutting it here and saying, we're done and forget this.
oh, I understand that, but scroll back to the where you just did, and you'll see what I mean. Can you go back to, yeah, go back toward the daddy, yeah. You see, does it go back down that far?
No, it doesn't go that far.
That's what I'm asking about.
But we're
yeah.
doing Manship anyway. Manship was on the list.
Manship is not on the list.
It was one of the 9 that they took
Oh,
off.
okay, got it,
So
got it,
hopefully
got
it'll
it.
come back on.
It was one of the 9 they took
Yeah.
off.
That's where the water lines are, the small water lines have got.
Said
We take it off.
Jackson Water's gonna do it all.
Right.
Jackson Water didn't say that, so now they put it back in when we found out what Jackson Water's gonna do.
Gotcha.
Got
But
it,
Manship was one of the original,
got it.
that's
okay.
one of the 9.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I knew we had a bit of.
Hey, that's cute.
Robert, we're not gonna
I like that.
No more of that.
Thank you for the clarification.
I go to Seattle and become less tech.
And just for the, where we're doing Whitworth and Quinn both, they were done starting basically in the Bellhaven Heights, but because we're going end to end of streets, they're going into Bellhaven that block or two to go all the way through rather than stopping at Fortification.
But to get back to your original point that you brought up at the very beginning of this, it sounds as if we need to address this before they get to the, because it makes no sense to.
Well, hopefully, that's what I'm saying, yeah, hopefully we can get them working on Manship with whatever they gotta do, so that when they're doing Whitworth and working right there, they'll just keep on working to turn the corner.
Because I'm sure y'all gotta mill that, that's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got, there, I've walked that, the asphalt is,
gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone because the gravel is down the street at the end, like
They
I can
must
pick
mill
this
it.
up and bring it back, and that's.
It ain't gonna take much to mill it.
Well, it still needs to be milled.
I know it does, I'm
what's
just saying,
left of it,
it's gonna
but,
come up easy.
So, yeah, I mean, that's something that with Neil Schaefer going in and looking at these streets 3 or 4 weeks in advance,
It's like this.
and also double checking everything, we do have that flexibility here, and yes, you're right on the cost. But,
Yeah.
so noted.
Yeah.
There are a few cases where the road is so shot, you just can't mill an overlay.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just asking Nathan, have y'all driven Northside Drive down in Sherwood Forest?
Yeah.
You know, at the split to the river, to the end?
From the five-legged fork on?
Yes, that's gotta be one of the worst streets in town.
And if you remember, we talked about that one, but because of the real bad base work up there where the flashing light is, it needs to have some.
I wasn't even talking about up there.
I
I'm
know,
talking about-
but if you're gonna fix
Down
this
here.
end, you ought to fix the whole, what
Yeah.
we said, this end needs to be fixed, but we took it out of this. Well, number one, the neighborhood over there didn't recommend that one. But number two, because it needed more work on it than just a
Right.
mill and overlay, we said that's something we needed to address as a separate street.
Is that-
Yes, it
is that
does
like
need
a
to be done.
rebuild?
Could be, it's a bad spot over there.
Yeah,
I-
a lot of
I live
clay.
there. I can tell you some more. But the problem is with this, we've got 1,100 miles of streets, and here we're talking about 20, 30
Yeah.
miles. And it's in response to the neighborhood associations of saying, these are our worst streets.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of cases where we don't have neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and then you only know, I mean, like, the Sheffield, I'm surprised there weren't more in the Sheffield neighborhood association.
But there was a utility cut on Northside Drive in that bad section that I assume Jackson Water did, because it was as perfectly rectangular and flat as this piece of paper. Whatever they fixed it right.
It's beautiful.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
But, so, you know, a lot of those lumpy spots are utility cuts that just never got fixed properly.
And to address what you said, yes, this is 30, 40 miles, and there's 1,100 miles. And yes, this is where there were neighborhood associations and not. We sat here for 2 years and discussed how to go about doing this. And the way to start winnowing down, because we had to narrow it down to what we could do, was let's go to the neighborhood association. And hopefully that might build up and make some neighborhood association become active. And we're gonna spend a good bit of money right here now. They've still got to go to the other areas, but that was the starting point because they did have an organized association.
Yeah, it's really a pretty good way of doing it, short of going through all the engineering and evaluation of all of them. One thing that's interesting is, you know, in the past, in decades, the way these curb cuts would be, these utility cuts, they would fix the water line and then they'd throw red sand in there, and that's it. And within a month, a couple of rains, we'd have big potholes. Well, they are putting in crushed limestone, which is compacted, and we feel that that's much better. And they'll get it all the way to the top, and then it'll be a little while settled, and then we'll do the resurfacing on top of it. So that's pretty good, really.
All right.
I have one question that came up from the last meeting. This may be from the city. A councilwoman reached out and asked questions specifically about the areas of the city where streets were being repaved. I think the commission's done a really good job of spreading this out across the city. I don't know if anyone ever responded to her. And do y'all remember seeing that email? I can't even remember. It was a
Councilwoman Lee.
It's Councilwoman Lee.
Well,
Huh?
I didn't get such an email.
I think that was after, I
Oh,
took
wow.
a picture.
That was
Remember, I
after
took
the
a
map was
picture and then I
sent.
hit
Right.
reply all
Yeah.
to the notification for the meeting, and whoever was
I
on
don't
that
know what
email.
email chain it was on, Pete, but she asked the question. I just don't know if anyone ever answered.
I think-
I didn't, because it's not my
The
responsibility.
question
but-
was, how were the zones selected? Because
I think her argument was to the effect of, this looks like it's largely focused towards District 1, and I think if you look at the map, clearly it is not. It is very well spread across the city.
And
Someone
just-
needs to make that point to her.
And just for general information too, we've had this going way back to the first neighborhood street deal we had. Her district, her ward, North Jackson, for a long time, got CDBG money that the rest, and some parts of South Jackson could get, that the rest couldn't. So they got a lot of streets done
Addressed, yeah.
in back prior to 2015, 16. Plus, they have less Yazoo clay up in that area. And it's also newer area.
Right.
And so there is some reasoning for why there's less work up there, is because a lot of that area is not like District Ward 5 or Ward 7 that's with 100-year-old streets. Some of those are only 30 or 40. If you go into the oldest and the worst and whatever.
I
Yeah,
guess the point being more than anything, it's not directed towards one
It
district.
needs,
It's clearly
it
pushed
should not
across
need
the
to be
city,
answered,
you
but I
know?
just think that the political answer needs to be
That's a great
understood.
point too. It didn't have that historical context. Someone needs to respond to it. I guess my point more than anything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we sure
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
working
you.
with you.
Thanks, David.
And before you go, just as a matter of being in fact, I've seen them put a little thin layer of pavement over really bad spots. That's normal, that's a normal
No,
question.
that's the city doing that.
Oh, it is.
Maybe us doing some patchwork,
The city's been doing some patchwork at some of the ones where we're gonna pave.
They are.
at
Okay,
least trying to keep it in drivable.
If you looked over
condition.
there on Boyd Street, whatever that is, that Boyd turns into, yeah.
But there is some curb and gutter that's broken that we're fixing.
okay. So the paving is being done by the city. And I've had like 2 or 3 people ask me.
Some of the patching,
Yeah.
the city's been doing some patching work around.
That's really interesting, okay.
And that's more just make sure, the road's still good while through the winter, because with, the winter.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, thank you.
One last question on this project. You made or the project before, you made a comment about the sidewalks and areas that you think for resurface. Is that a requirement to go back and fix the sidewalks?
Yes.
once you do?
So that's American Disabilities Act.
It is.
It is.
If you address a significant part of the roadway, then you need to address the sidewalks as
So
well.
the way the ADA works technically is the only thing you have to do when you do a resurfacing project is do the corner curb ramps that are typically in the other 49 states, your main barrier to accessibility.
Okay.
The problem in Jackson is everything between the curb ramps are just as bad. So what we've committed to our ADA community is that when we go and pave a street, we will do everything we can to get that sidewalk, one in the other, in that repaving zone, up to ADA standards as much as possible.
Okay.
We've worked with them and we've built a very good relationship with them, and when we've had tight spots and problems, I call them out saying, hey, come out here, let's take a look at this. So they actually see where we have things that are not perfect on your regulatory paperwork in the real world, where it's like, okay, we can't get you 48, but can you live with 45 inches clear?
Right.
And they're very accommodating on that because we work with them on the front end.
Yeah.
So like one of them is Ridgeway Street, and I'm looking at power poles dead center of the sidewalk. That'll be
Apple Street.
Capitol Street.
Ridgeway.
That's on my next slide. So we have a very good working relationship. We don't have a consent decree. We don't want a consent decree, but we have what other cities don't have, which is a great working relationship with advocates that understand from my end, I can't do everything perfectly by the book, but let's find a way to get it as best as possible, given our situation and limitations.
Okay, but let me, I've just learned something that's different from what I've been here for 8 years. The only ADA requirement is the curb cuts.
When you do the paving.
The curb ramps.
But you have-
Wait, excuse me, I understand.
Sorry.
When you do the paving, when you're doing 2 blocks of paving, the only ADA requirement, I'm not talking about.
That's one. I didn't get the other one. The second requirement is, on your transition plan, you have to address any issues in the middle between your ramps at some point in the next 50 years.
Okay, but.
So what we working with our community, and they've agreed upon, is we're gonna go ahead and knock everything out now in the repaving zone, so that way we don't have to come back on the street and do this sometime in 2052.
Look, and I asked the question just because I want to understand it. I am, for someone who recently had an experience in life where ADA was important, I am, not me personally, but someone significant, someone important to me. I'm supportive of it. I just wanted to understand the process of what the requirement is if you did that.
I'm not arguing against it either.
I know you aren't. I know.
I'm just saying that it's not a requirement from ADA to do it.
Right, and that's what I wanted to understand.
That's what
I just
well,
wanted the process.
that's something new is the ramps, the curb cut at the intersection is all the ADA's required. The rest of it is a local.
It's an ADA requirement under another section, but you don't have to do it with the repaving.
Under 50 years. It has nothing to do with the repaving of the street, because you're gonna repave that street 4 or 5 times in the next 50 years if you do it properly.
Yeah.
We're not, I know, but I'm just saying.
Or other places you put concrete down and it lasts 50 years, which is a true situation in other parts of the country.
They don't have Yazoo clay.
That's right.
But if there is sidewalk, they have to repair the sidewalk.
What we want to do is if the sidewalk that's there is actually meets ADAs in reasonable shape, we don't need to tear it all up. But if the sidewalk's at cross slope of 4%, every driveway's
Right.
going every which way, we want to go ahead and do what we need to do to get the sidewalk up to standards. Like on North Side Drive, we replaced about half the sidewalk on that federal aid project. Some of the sidewalk, fine, we didn't have to touch it. But there's some of it, it was,
You can't.
When you say sidewalks, you threw out driveways. Why do we do driveways too?
because a lot of places, one way how we did our construction in the 60s and 70s, your driveway is like at about a 7 or 8% slope, and the sidewalk just went straight across. It didn't go behind that
slope.
That driveway slope is part of your sidewalk. That's still subject to your 2% limit, just like any other part of your sidewalk. You can't have like 2%, 8%, 2%, 8%. What we try to do is go behind it where we have room so we don't have to tear the driveway apron out. Some areas that's not an issue, like Bellhaven, you've got the green strip, you don't have to worry about that. Other areas, it's compact and they did that. It seemed great in 1962, 2023, not so much.
You have more slides?
Yes, I do. Before Christmas, they're working on design solutions for our power pole situation on Capitol Street, so that is in progress.
You see the new sidewalk on Capitol Street that had power poles in the middle of it?
Yes, sir.
They're power poles in the middle.
At least it's not popular
Hey,
in Memphis, Tennessee.
they're power poles in the middle of the ones on Robinson Road.
That's all that was.
Thank you. Robinson was a county project.
It's the county excuse me, it's the county project that we pay 2/3 of the cost of.
I know. Last month, Sales Tax Commission authorized us to move forward with design contracts. We're working on those now for these bridges.
Hold on. Go ahead, if you got something to say about it
Yeah,
before you.
that's it.
All right. Last month, there was a motion made to approve $440,000 for this. I'd like to have either an amendment to that motion or a new motion, whatever, to break it down and say it's based on those numbers right there per project. Because we need to have for the accounting side a cost per project rather than one lump sum. For example, what if Beasley Road never gets done, but we got $78,000 in there, but we spent the $78,000, but we didn't ever do the bridge, we don't have anywhere to charge it to, so we need to.
Do we need to do that now,
I
or do we
think-
want to do that next month?
I think you can make a motion right now just to allocate that $440,000 a dip based on that formula, and I will put that into.
You'll take care of it from there?
I'll take care of it from
Is that in
there.
the form of a motion?
Yes,
Second?
okay.
All
Thank
in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's not changing anything, it's just
We're
breaking
taking
it.
Got
the design
Just
column.
clarify.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
clarify.
Taking the design column and.
And then you gotta allocate $8,000 somewhere in there because we added 8,000, but yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, got it.
Any opposed?
Nope.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Swan Lake and MLK, we did get back with Entergy on power and pile situation. MLK actually has transmission lines right above it, so those aren't gonna get moved, they're not gonna get cut off. So we've reworked the type of pile where we don't have the overhead issues we have over on McRaven. And same for Swan Lake, just to make sure, so that's where we've been going back and double checking ourselves with Entergy and getting back with Entergy to avoid another situation like we had on that Graven. The raise grant update, we've been funding the design with modernization tax funds. The office review is slated for February. MDOT and Federal Highways reviewing the environmental documents, and the grant agreement actually came into my email box yesterday. This has no sales tax funding on it. It's been discussed. It was discussed as a potential about a year and a half ago. This is more of just an update on where we're at, because we are progressing along on the design side, and we've been putting modernization tax funds towards that design as we go. That's just for your information only. Meadowbrook Road, we had the final inspection. It got strung over 2 days. Punch list work's underway. We did have an additional base failure pop up after the surface was put down at Dollar General.
Now make that make sense for me. What do you mean a base failure?
So a base failure is under the asphalt, you've got dirt and it's compacted. And we go in, do a mill, do an overlay, and then if we have soft areas, think of it like the pothole that never ends. You go and patch it and then it keeps going. Well, that's because your dirt base under there is destabilized.
Got it, okay.
And you've got to dig that out, put better material or stone material in, then put your asphalt on top. Think of it like a utility cut without a utility.
Got it, okay.
That one crept up after the paving concluded in the middle of the driveway just past the gutter pan. For as far as materials, we can use existing materials we have in the project to account for that, but we will see from that a little bit of a increase.
My question is, that's the same story we heard a month ago. Have they not fixed that base figure yet? Because that was said in the December meeting.
Yeah, that is something that they're working on. They had some other work going on, and then we had our Christmas break.
Okay.
And we only had really about 2 weeks worth of working time in the last 4, because usually your contractors will shut down.
But I assume it didn't happen the day of our meeting too, so you had some time before that meeting too.
It
Okay.
happened, that
Okay.
inspection was pretty close to the meeting time.
Okay, all right.
But that is work in progress there. And I put everything else, kind of just condensed them on the slides. The Mill Street Bridge, I need to update that. Paving work's done. In fact, somebody was kind enough to anonymously move the barricades out of the way. I got to drive over it yesterday. I don't think it was supposed to be open, but it drove great. Terry Road resurfacing punch work is almost done, and they're sending the final paperwork as far as materials and quantity summaries to MDOT, because they have to review all the quantities, tickets, summaries, etc. They go through it fine tooth comb. Woodrow Wilson Avenue, MLK to Mill Street, SOL. They were asked to do a couple more final changes on the PS&E package. That's in progress, and MDOT, I think they've got the C&I about wrapped up. I got to confirm that though. And then Woodrow Wilson from Mill Street to I-55, the water line is the problem. Because MDOT has said that.
Can I make a suggestion to this group on that project? We got an MPO grant to go from I-55 to the Mill Street Bridge. And we were gonna put up $700,000 to match it. MDOT came to us and wanted to add a lane and said they would pay for this lane to add that comes off the interstate to go there. The worst part of that project is between I-55 and North State Street. We've talked about it before. That's where most of the work to be done is in that section. From North State to Mill Street is just concrete, and it's concrete because of the expansion joint. Now we want $2 million to match the MPO grant rather than the original 7, plus $3 million put in a water line. Why don't we not do away with the MPO grant, do from I-55 to State Street, get MDOT to pay for that third lane, and taking, just not have the MDOT, not have the MPO money, and fix that section, and not worry about spending $7 million, because we've got to put in a $3 million water line in order to do what we thought was gonna be a $700,000 project.
Is not that the same water line that Jackson Water's dealing with,
No.
the tie-in at
It's the same
Riverside?
water line, but the tie-in's back up here.
So they don't have anything to do with it?
This water line is the Jackson Water line. MDOT doesn't want to go through there and do heavy machine work to tear stuff up, because they're saying the line is 60 years old. And I tell you what Lee Frederick, MDOT told me, he said, at first they were gonna do a letter agreement that Jackson would be responsible for it if something happened. And we took about this is why Dr. Williams is still here. They never got around to writing that. Finally, they said, no, we want it replaced because, quote, they didn't trust Jackson to live up to the agreement if something happened to it. And so they want that water line replaced, and that's gonna cost $3 million to replace it from the top of the hill up there by Morrow School all the way down to the MLK Bridge. It says-
No, just, you don't have to replace the whole thing. Or move the whole thing.
That's
You
right.
only need to look at the third lane in the median. The issue was at the top of the hill, coming down the hill from the VA. When you get close to Peachtree, the road shifts over to where your 3 lanes tie into the existing 3 lanes in front of Batson and Wisdom. And then the right turn lane would be over further on the right, where the blue sign is telling you to turn into the university. So your only section in the median where you were doing widening was from the top of the hill at the VA down about 3/4 of the
Okay,
way
I don't-
down the hill.
So you're saying the water
Wait,
line
wherever
runs
it is,
down
it's-
the median?
The water line runs down the median, and it's now estimated to be $3 million. I don't care how.
Regardless how far it is, it's still.
Yeah, regardless how far it
It's
is.
still a lot because you got that water line and then you got 2 fire mains.
My understanding was it went on down the other because they had to figure out where they were gonna move it out of the median. I don't
Is
care.
this
where it
not, this isn't something Jackson Water will tackle?
is. No, they're saying it's not their priority because the water line's working fine.
Because it's not operational.
The water line's working fine.
The water line's fine.
From
The
what
last
I,
thing we did, we had to fix the elbow
At the top of
several
the
years
hill.
ago, top deal, when we had Woodrow Wilson
Yeah.
on vacation for 3 weeks.
the deal was, we took bids on this project. Got one bid way out of the money. 2 bids again, one bid way out of the money because it's a concrete road rather than asphalt. And none of the people that do concrete road work want to do business with the city of Jackson. So we went to MDOT and said, where do we give it to you and let you manage it? Y'all might can get better bids. And so we handed the project to MDOT, and we were gonna give them the money as the match, and they'd manage it. MDOT then, when it got to this water line issue, is now saying they want it replaced.
Gotcha.
Because before they gonna pay a contractor to go tear it up, if it breaks, they don't wanna be responsible, so they want it replaced. My question is, what turned out to be, let's fix this bad section of road, and we got MPO money for it. And now we're chasing this MPO money, and we're chasing it because of the MDOT, the contract side. If we would save money if we just fixed this section, did it ourselves, along with getting MDOT to pay for that third lane. We spent $900,000 on engineering on this project so far, because we've had like
Just
5.
pull it back to fixing the road and let them add their lane. No MPO money.
And just fix this section that's
That's what it
bad,
looks like.
no
Half the
MPO money.
section's asphalt.
Even if you throw the MPO money out, let's just pretend for a second, there's no MPO funds involved. And it's just city money, whatever MDOT funds have. The water line issue with the third lane would still stand.
Wait, that's if MDOT did it, I'm saying, and we take it back and the city do it. The water line is not a problem to the city. The water line is a problem to MDOT. The water line did not need to be replaced all the time the city was gonna do it. It's MDOT that said,
Okay.
we don't want the liability for the water line. So the city take the project back from MDOT, and we do this section of it,
This section being I-55 to State.
so I-55 to
State
State.
Street, that's right.
Add the other lane, get MDOT to pay for this other lane, take the money that we were gonna spend.
Where's the other lane go? The turn north on?
The other lane, if you come off the interstate and you come up there and all of a sudden it ends before you turn into DPS.
Unless you're going to the highway department.
And then-
Highway patrol. you make
So
a hard
connect
right.
from there all the way down to where it widens out down there by Batson.
Gotcha.
To
Okay.
make that lane go all the way through from the
That makes
interstate
a lot more
to,
sense.
yeah.
It's a horrible traffic.
And that was MDOT's request to us, that we add that lane.
Actually, it works good if you stay on that lane.
I mean, it needs to be done.
If you can get over there.
You can get over there, you can pass everybody.
Do what?
I said, it works pretty good if you stay in the left lane, you won't fast
But you
enough,
gotta
you go
go
around
over.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah, that's
You
right.
go 4,
If you catch the light.
4 to 3 to 2, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I agree.
And then what the plan was we have property line restrictions here up against the VA, so we widen on the median side, those trees, rest in peace. And then once you get clear here, this is the line between VA and the university, this is all city limits, that's not an issue. Then we start merging everything over,
That's all.
where you line up here, add a right turn lane here to move that over. This lines up with the third lane in front of Wisner, and we would look at the drainage, because right now there's actually not even a curb there, much less drainage. That's just a grass buildup where the water just sits there anytime it rains. And that third lane would go right here, and you see everybody doing the old
Yep.
State Street shuffle to turn
Got
into.
it. I agree with you, Pete. I think what you just said's a great.
I think we ought to look at, if we did this section, take it back from
Yeah.
MDOT, do this section, so we don't have to worry about replacing the water line that, it's a 60-year-old water line, but it's, except for that one problem where the valve was, or
Which is great now.
the angle, where that got replaced. Because we
It's okay.
debated.
The water line's okay.
And we just, yeah, we debated about not replacing the water line over on Bellhaven,
So, Mr.
because it
Lee,
wasn't that bad, so
People coming in.
let's don't spend $3 million in order to do a road project.
you
Let's,
concur in theory?
let's move the money over
I
there.
want to follow up with the design team at Michael Baker and kind of get an estimate on if we hack off the project at State Street and look at State Street to the top of the hill as a city project, no MPO fund, just what the budget would be.
Okay.
And, yeah,
And then discuss what that budget would be, knowing that we'd have some amount of money that's MDOT for the third lane, and then the rest of it's city only, and just kind of look at those costs.
That's
I
what-
may not have that ready for the February meeting, but
That-
I'll follow up with.
That's
the
what I'm sitting
Michael
here
Baker
asking,
team.
let's quit chasing this other one, let's look at that as an option.
We agree.
And,
100%.
Okay.
and we can find out from MDOT how much they're willing to put in that third lane. But, I mean, we've,
Got it. It'll take a couple months, probably,
Okay.
to inform.
You got more updates for us?
Yeah, Robert, what you got next?
Let's see what I did. So these are the new projects, kickoff meetings, notice to proceed, we're underway on those. The ones that had the tight timelines on environmental are the two, or all of them, but the two bridges are the ones where from environmental, you have to look at how the bridge crosses water, and we think we're gonna be able to meet the environmental deadline approval of end of February. I believe it's end of February, somewhere in there, take a few days. But those projects are moving on, nice as far as the.
quick question. They're moving on, we're starting the engineering design work. What's the earliest any of those might be ready to go to contract? Because I'm looking at it from a money standpoint. We've obligated the money for the engineer, and I'm just wondering what the,
I think you're
2025?
25 at the earliest.
Okay.
The ones that might be the easiest to get done would be that State Street job.
Yeah.
Because it's so short.
Yeah.
But you got time.
But we're not
It's
needing,
it's not gonna be 24.
we're not gonna need 2024 money, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And with the MPO and their obligation authority, they were thinking originally like 26, 27, but they're clear on their obligation authority, and that's another discussion for another day. But that means that whenever it gets to the finish line of design, they can tell us, yes, move forward with
The discussion you had last month about do we have the money to do the neighborhood streets, as long as this doesn't have construction work to it, that's fine.
Should be.
Yeah. Just a quick recap of the MPO call for projects for everybody's benefit. They did issue the call for projects on the 2nd. These were the proposals from a sales tax standpoint that was generally agreed upon. And there wasn't no motion, just everybody said, yeah, this looks good. As far as the street proposals, that's it.
Okay.
All right,
Motion adjourned.
last second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Wright, we're adjourned, thanks.
All right.
It's like, Nathan, seriously, you got a question?
Thanks, Michael.
See you, Michael.